Hey, we are back today, day number 288. I missed yesterday. I'll explain that in a second, but welcome to our guest, Linda Nelson from Ancient Earth Pigments. What are you going to do for us today, Linda?
Eric, I'm going to show you guys how to make paint. Make your own paint for real vibrancy. You can mix it dry and then go into making paint. You can do at least 5 different mediums. So whether you're an oil painter, you'd mix it in with like walnut oil,
Oh,
or
good. So what we'll do is hold off on that because we're going to teach them some of that. And that way but you can make watercolor or oil paint or just about anything. That's great. Terrific. Well, let me just briefly, Linda, tell everybody what happened yesterday. Is I had my guest all prepared and we were talking, we were getting ready, and she said to me something that I was thinking, and she said, you know, my husband said everybody's going to be watching what's happening in Washington today. Is it really smart for us to go on? And I said, you know, I was thinking the same thing. And she said, my friend Dan Kennedy, who's someone that we both admire, she said, Dan Kennedy says you can never compete with Santa Claus. And so I thought, you know what? I'm going to take the day off because everybody's going to be paying attention. And I think it's probably a good thing I did. So anyway, we're back today. And the goal is be upbeat, be positive, no matter what's going on in the world. We keep our heads in the right place and we feel good about ourselves. So Linda, you are charged with that responsibility to get us excited today and show us how to make paint. So let's get right into it.
Okay, Eric, thank you very much. Thank you for having me on your program. I've been a painter for many years, and what I found is that you can spend a lot of money on tubes, but if you can mix your own, you can go to many different mediums. So today I'm going to be specializing in the water-based mediums, but remember, you can always take that same pigment and turn it into a pastel stick or a pan pastel oil paint. I'm told you can also do acrylic, but you can also do fresco. So
can you give us just a quick overview? I know you're going to do it for water, but can you give us now a quick overview of if you were going to make your own oil paint or some other form, what would you do? And maybe you say that while you're doing it with the water-based medium, and then you can say, here's how we would do that.
Right. Okay. So when I was filming for Realism Live, I did a little demo on how to mix dry pigments. Two of the ones that I did were my signature blue, because I had lost the company. I didn't know who made this beautiful blue that I use in my ocean scenes. So I said, oh, gotta figure this one out before the rest of the stick is gone. There's that. And then when we were in Italy, we saw a whole lot of frescoes. Here's an example of one that we did not see, but a whole lot of Annunciation pictures, which we just love. And the key to the Italian painters doing portraits of Mary is a color called Cinebrise Rossa. So I'm going to show that to you. I mixed that up for Realism Live, and today I'm going to turn it into paint for you. Okay.
Okay. So I'm just curious because are you there? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was confused for a second. So I just want to ask a couple of questions along the way because I think there are people who might not understand some of what you've done. So I want to just kind of tell your story real quickly. First off, all paint is made out of pigments, and Linda's going to explain where pigments come from in a minute. But what she did, Linda decided when she saw these vibrant pictures in Italy, she started studying how can I get that kind of vibrancy, and she learned that it comes down to making your own paint. Now, that doesn't mean you can't get it with certain kinds of paint. There are probably some you can. So, but the idea is you're going to learn how to mix dry pigment to make your own paints. And so this, and you started a business actually doing this, did you not?
I did. I actually bought a little mom and pop business from my mentor. She's 82 and her husband's even older, and they were just getting a little bit too too tired to be running the business. So I bought the mom and pop business, and I'm growing it for fine artists because they had a very niche market for beginners only. And I'm thinking, you know, I keep seeing people like oh, what is his name? The his own.
Well, we froze up there. Well, hopefully Linda will, are you back? Okay, you froze up for a second. Okay. So you were talking about a portrait artist mixing his own paint.
Yes, many senior artists, not senior, elevated artists will mix their own paint because they can't get what they want or they need a signature color. So there's Scott Christensen has a series of grays. They're his signature grays. And if you take his workshop, you have to buy those grays. So if you can mix your own, you save a bundle of money. And the great thing is, of course, is that whatever, you know, whatever that mixture is that you've mixed dry, you can say, oh, today I'm painting in watercolor, or tomorrow I'm in egg tempera. Whatever, you just need that dry pigment and you're good.
All right.
All right.
Okay, let's get started.
Okay, so normally I would be wearing a mask. I want you all to remember to wear a mask when you're using dry pigments. It's just as dangerous as flour or any other particulate matter when you're breathing it in. But I'm not going to wear it so that you guys can hear me. So this
So
is.
you're actually putting your life at risk for our audience.
I am.
All right. Yeah, you're very kind.
So here we have the mixing bowl that I had the Cinebreeze Rosa in. And what I'm going to, because I hate to waste, I'm going to use a little bit of distilled water. Oops, crash.
Now, why is distilled water important?
Well, we're trying to avoid having any mold grow, because if you do this properly, if you're going to think that you're going to paint for a couple days, you don't want to be using water that might have anything in it that could cause trouble later on. So when I'm talking about how we mix up the egg tempera, we use something called gum arabic, and we also use a little bit of glycerin to make it a little bit plasticine. That's a modern thing, because if you're mixing in order to make a little pan, you want to save it for a few days, or you want to make yourself one of these nice little travel kits like this. So you want to be able to use this in the field, and you don't want it to crumble away. So we put a little bit of glycerin in, and I put a little dab of honey. In the old days with egg tempera, they might put a drop or two of clove oil to hide the eggy odor and also help preserve it a little bit longer, because these guys are all working hours and hours on these huge frescoes.
You know, we can't see your face while you're talking. Maybe we could get the camera up just part way. There we go. Thank you.
There we go. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and mix down some of this pigment.
So you're mixing that just with water right now, distilled water.
Just distilled water, because I'm trying to rescue all of the pigment that's still in the bowl here, because you can tell I didn't clean it up after Realism Live. Okay, so we're good there. So I'm going
to. Well, the other thing is that if you've got dry pigment, you can then bring it back to life, right?
Exactly.
Is that true with any kind of paint? I mean, any paint, if you know how to do it, you can do the same thing?
Water-based ones, yes. Not egg tempera, because once that dries, it's permanent. So that's something I didn't know. All those medieval and Italian paintings from the Renaissance, they're egg tempera. That luminosity, I thought for years it's oils. No, it is egg tempera. Once it's dry, it's permanent.
Yeah, and now that's an incredible way to get that luminosity too. Now, and it dries very, very fast, right? So you have to kind of work slow and keep remixing. Is that right?
Well, for the water-based paints, it's like any tube of watercolor paint that you would have. Once that's dried on your paper, you have to worry about it lifting. It's not as permanent as the egg tempera. Gouache, the same deal. There's nothing, the gum arabic binds it to the paper or to your surface, but it doesn't make it permanent.
Okay.
So, get what I mean? Okay. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to take the dry pigment. I'm going to add a few drops of the tinted water.
Is that the same color tint?
Yes, yes. This is the very same stuff that I made for Realism Live, and it's a little bit darker in its wet state. What I'm wanting is something that's like a heavy cream. And I put a little bit too much water, so I'll have to fix that by putting a little more of the pigment. You always tap the top of your jar to settle it before you start ladling it out. Let me grab, I don't have a spoon here. It's okay. I'll just go ahead and do this.
It's interesting because if you look at the bottle, it's very pink, and yet it gets this incredible red color.
Right. So what I would do and it may dry back to that pale pink. And of course, depending on the complexion of the angel or Virgin Mary or your grandson, whatever, you would adjust this. You know, if the angel is more tan, perhaps, you might add a little bit more raw sienna, or you might see I'm getting nice and sticky right there. That's just about right. So Norm is going to hand, my assistant Norm, my husband, is going to hand me the gum arabic. Thank you. So I made this last night, gum arabic.
What do you mean you made it?
Well, what you have is a dry powder, and it is, there we go. It's a dry powder, and what I did is I poured 140 degree water on it, not boiling, but 140 degree water, and I mixed it up, and then before it got cold, I went ahead and added, the honey and the glycerin. Now I don't want
How much honey and how much glycerin?
I'll have to get the recipe for you, but it's a ratio. So let's say 5 teaspoons of gum arabic.
Maybe somebody will write this down in the comments. 5 teaspoons of gum arabic.
10 teaspoons of hot water.
10 teaspoons of hot water.
And whisk it until you get all the lumps out, or most of the lumps out.
And you boil the water at 140 degrees before you add in the powder for gum arabic.
Exactly.
Now, I want to tell people that there's a little known trick related to gum arabic. I don't know, maybe you know it. Did you know that gum arabic is what the brush makers use? The final thing they do, if they want to shape their brushes, they dip it in gum arabic and shape it, and then it dries so that they keep that really nice shape. So some of the manufacturers, for instance, sell a brush shaper, which is essentially gum arabic. And so that's something you can do, whether you buy it from them or make your own.
That sounds great. And so many of us, you know, we're as careful as we are with our brushes, they do get a little fluffy in time. Okay, so I have definitely gone a little too liquid here. So look, I'm going to use the rest of it. Actually, because I'm teaching you 3 different paints, it's okay if I use this up. So we're starting with basic watercolor. And I'm making it into that creamy paste that I was telling you about. And you always want to scoop it towards the center so you're not spreading out too much. Now this is a very fine pigment. I'm not going to need to mull it. This is a muller, and you'll see people taking these and going in like figure 8s and grinding. But on this one, it's so smooth already, and most of my pigments are already pre-ground to the right texture. So what I'm going to say is this is the watercolor. And I'm going to have to take this painting off of here. One sec. Norm, here's a... So that's one of my field studies. And, you know, when you're out there enjoying nature, what better way to record your great holiday than doing field sketch?
Now, Linda, you can pre-mix these, put them into a container, and then you can mix them together later. You don't have to mix powder into powder to get a color.
No, you don't. You don't.
Okay.
So, for example, I'm going to take one of my little dishes here. And now that I've got it nice and smooth, I'm just going to carefully ladle it in here. And because I put that little bit of glycerin in last night, I know that this is not going to crack and turn into fragments in my travel box.
So you're making your own watercolor, and you could paint off of that for a long time.
I could. Okay.
Well, I know you're a sponsor of Watercolor Live. Now I understand why.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to grab a brush, one of mine here. I'm going to wet it with a little bit of water. So some of the fun things that we're investigating now are brushes, because we would like to bring some in for Watercolor Live. And because so many of the people who are out there experimenting want to learn watercolor. So I'm going to show you a few of the other things besides the little travel boxes, little travel palettes. Now these are supposed to have the half pans, but sometimes you want larger pans. So what I've done is I've mixed them up like this. The palettes come empty, but depending on whether maybe you want more white or more Payne's gray or whatever, you have a choice of what size of pans you want to put in there.
That's
And then
nice.
this is the big one. This is the big one. And to tell you the truth, I'll probably go with the big one because I just like lots of mixing area. So this is nice and lightweight, and these are not locked down into the little chambers just yet. So just to show you what it looks like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because not everybody has seen these guys, seen palettes like this. So as I was mentioning earlier, and I'll get to the gouache in just a moment, let me show you a few things that we're trying to bring in. Can you see that?
Yeah. Wow.
Super. Alrighty, so we're going to be field testing a number of synthetic brushes here because the synthetics are so good now that they're holding as much water. They have this almost the same snap and liveliness of a Kolinsky sable. And I've been fond of Kolinsky sable for a long time, but it's very pricey. And in fact, they may be having a hard time importing it to the US. So anyway, here's a range of the brushes that we hope to be bringing in. These are two new colors. This is ultramarine ash, which is probably the most expensive pigment that we have. And then this one is actual lapis lazuli. So as soon as you figure out what it cost with all the shipping and the duty and all that kind of stuff, we will be putting those on the website. And then,
Excellent.
yeah, you guys are going to be
Yeah.
having fun.
Yeah. Now you have, by the way, just to give you a feel for this, today we have viewers from Germany, Pakistan. Let's see what else I'm seeing here. Italy. I think it was Linda's birthday in Italy yesterday. Happy birthday, Linda. Let's see. Ontario, Canada, France. Wow. A lot of places around the world. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in today.
Thank you very much. So just to give you a little bit of idea how this is going to lay out.
So Linda is using, what's the name of the color?
This is Cinebreeze Rosa. It's
Cinebreeze Rosa. It's very vibrant.
And it is the basis for flesh tones in Italian paintings of the Renaissance.
Huh. I'll have to check my kit of what I got from you if I have that in there.
You won't because you have to mix it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. Remember the colors I was showing you at the outset?
Yeah,
It came from that set. So
I
this
see. So what
red.
colors did you mix to create Cinebreeze Rosa?
Okay, let me see what we've got here. Scarlet red, chalk whiting. I think I went ahead and I gave it some warmth with yellow ochre light and rose ochre. Oops, sorry.
All right. So you can actually mix your own pigments by mixing pigments together and then putting it in your own jar. That's what you've
Exactly.
done here. Okay.
Or in this case, in your own little watercolor dish, half pan or full pan in this case. Okay, so there we have there we have the watercolor. And now I'm going to go ahead and turn this into a gouache.
Linda,
Actually,
I'm just going to tell you right now that you got several hundred people that'll view this, maybe several thousand by the end of the day, and they're
wow.
going to want that color and they're going to want it pre-mixed from you. So you guys better get busy and start mixing.
We're trying to foster the spirit of experimentation because, as I say, maybe you have that blue that you cannot get anywhere, right? Maybe you have to make your own blue because that stick of pastel is gone. Or in this case, I did Winsor & Newton Davies Gray. And there are hundreds of landscape artists who are bemoaning the fact that Winsor & Newton discontinued their whole line of pastels. It's shocking. So this is such a beautiful color. Sometimes you're going to have to mix your own. So
So
here,
when you're mixing your own, though, if you're mixing it dry, and you know that it's going to come out a much more vibrant color like you have there, how
mhm.
do you know how to mix it? Is it just experimentation?
It's partly experimentation. You get to know your pigments. Some of them are going to require more water because they are just more absorbent. So as you're grinding, you're going to say, "Whoa, it's just soaking up the water." So add another drop or another drop. Okay,
Well,
so
what I mean though is if you're mixing, for instance, the Cinebreeze Rosa, you're
mhm,
mixing two or three powders. How are you going to know how you got the right amount of powders? Because you're going to have to mix it with water to get a sense of the color, right?
yes, yes, you
Okay.
will. But
Hello, Norway, by the way.
you get a sense for it when you're mixing dry powder. It's not that different from mixing wet paint on your palette. So, okay, do you see how that's already dried lighter than the wet color?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a problem with watercolor because it's going to dry 2 to 3 shades lighter than what you painted. So that's always something that I've had trouble with because, I've painted what I think is a beautiful shadow and then it disappears because it does dry lighter. So it doesn't hurt to go strong and then modify it. So anyway, here I'm going to do the gouache. All you're doing with gouache is adding chalk whiting or kaolin white to your paint. So what it's doing is adding opacity. And you can see we're already beginning to get a little gummy here. Well, I'm very excited. We've got viewers from around the world. How fun. And you see how I've got a nice thick paste going on here? Now this would show up better on dark paper. Let's see if I can't do this.
And it looks darker to me.
Mm-hmm. Well, it probably will dry lighter.
And what did you mix in there? Was that just white?
Yep, chalk whiting. Okay. So I can see it here because I'm right next to the paper. This is a lot more opaque, than the watercolor. So the watercolor, oftentimes you want some translucency, a little bit of delicacy going on. With the gouache, you can hide or enhance
Linda,
things.
can you hold that right up to the lens so they can see it a little better? Thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
All righty. Okay, so we've done the two. So we did the basic watercolor, and it's drying in the pan. And what you may need to do is over time let it slowly dry. It will sink in the dish a little bit, but have some more pigment ready. Go ahead and mix it up again. Pour a little bit more in there and keep topping it up so that you have a full dish. Okay. Let me wash this out just a moment.
And I suppose you could have multiple dishes if you wanted to mix a color you're going to use a lot. Just mix a whole bunch and put them in multiple dishes.
Exactly. So what I should do here is go ahead and save the gouache.
So tell everybody the difference between gouache and watercolor when you're mixing.
Gouache is opaque. That's the only difference between them. So watercolor is going to be more translucent, unless perhaps you're doing as the Impressionists. The California Impressionists apparently did not understand that watercolor was meant to be mixed with water as a carrier. So they were squeezing it directly out of the tubes and putting it right onto their painting. So that's part of the reason why their paintings are so bright, so vivid, because they were taking, for their field studies, they were taking pure tube pigment and kind of squeezing it out practically. Anyway, so okay.
But in terms of the mixture, what's the difference? Because watercolor doesn't have honey in it, does it?
Some of them do. One of my
really?
Yeah, I think it's Graham watercolors have honey in them, and it acts as both a binder and a preservative. So if I had tubes handy,
No, that's okay. That's all right.
Anyway, yeah, I think it's M. Graham.
Yeah.
And I started using them because I started out as a student with those little tiny tubes, and I wanted more, a bigger tube for more volume and better cost effectiveness. So I moved to that because I started teaching students, K-12 students, and I needed to have a lot more safe products in my studio. So that's why 99% of my pigments are going to be non-toxic. So basically, if you have a kitty or a dog in your household, you don't want the kitty jumping into your palette because then it's all over their toes. So anyway, you want to have some safety in your studio. Obviously, you don't want the kids playing with your stuff either. So, okay, so I've done those two. And let me go to Egg Tempura now. Norm, can you bring me those things? Thank you. All right. Thank you. So last night I went ahead and I separated some egg yolks from egg whites, and Norm will need the big bowl. Sorry, guys. Not quite enough room here. Okay. And can you pour this out for me? Just dump it in the plastic right there. Okay. So when I separated my eggs, I'm trying not to be wasteful again. What I do is I put the egg yolks separately, and I could, if I'm keeping everything nice and clean, I can save some of those egg yolks for an egg custard because I love to cook. I'm a pastry person. Or I can save the egg whites from the, I'm making meringue with the egg whites. So what I'm going to do now is I whipped up the egg whites into a meringue last night so that they had stiff peaks. Then I covered it loosely and left it on the countertop. And today I'm going to pour it off into this bowl, into this Pyrex. And you see that clear liquid, Eric?
Yes.
Okay, that is called glare. That is another painting medium along with the egg yolk.
Really?
Now, yes. So if you want translucency, what you do is you can come on top of your other painting with layers, thin layers of pigment in egg white. Okay. Now this stuff goes off pretty fast. You know, after maybe 3 days, it's going to be gone. Same with the eggs. They're not going to last too long. But I put a little bit of, so this is essentially, sorry, this is 3 eggs worth of stuff, right? I don't necessarily need that much, but I made it up for today so that you guys can see it's really simple. And one of the great benefits to working in egg tempera is because you can always find an egg. You can't always find an art store, right? Right?
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, so what we're doing here is we're showing you that you can also make egg tempera out of this same pigment. Actually, I'm going to clean up for a moment so that we can use a different color. Okay.
I'm going to ask a question from the audience. Are you ready?
Sure.
Can you answer a question while you're cleaning up?
Sure.
Linda, I work with gouache, which tends to mold in my palette pan sometimes. I will spray it with water mixed with a tad of ammonia and oxgal or glycerin. What would you suggest I use? 1, to prevent mold, and 2, to extend wetness on the palette while using it. Thank you. P.S. I bought some of Graham gouache, but my palette box hasn't come in yet.
Mold is an issue with any of these water-based things. If it's on your palette and it's molding, you might spray it with, or put a drop of vinegar, spray it with vinegar, or you might, when you
And she's frozen up. The magic of technology. Hopefully she'll unfreeze here in a second. There we go. She's back.
There we go. I'm back. All righty. So I hope that helps. Vinegar is acidic. So if you're trying to have an acid-free painting, that's kind of going to defeat you a little bit. So that's why I would say the little bit of honey, just a little bit, it might be a safer bet. Clove oil is said to also be a good preservative, so you might try that. Just a drop, and that would also help you with the preservative and the smell, because once things begin to go moldy, it's like I want to put some clove oil in here.
Someone says they use distilled water and vodka.
Yes, vodka is a possibility.
Well, and it doesn't freeze outside.
This is true. And it's a little cold in here, but we're nothing like where the East Coast. I'm sorry,
no,
guys.
Russia. That's what in Russia they put vodka in their paints, even their oil paints.
Yeah, I've heard of that one. Yeah, because that alcohol is not. I don't think it's going to be as destructive as something that's acidic. You don't want something eating away at the substrate, whatever your surface is, whether it's paper or gesso. So maybe vodka is a better choice.
And you can keep yourself warm with it as well.
have a happy painting time. Okay, so let's go and make an egg an egg based. Okay, I'm gonna go with. Do I have Davy's Gray here? No. All right, so here I'll show you. I don't think I showed this to you at the outset, but that is the Davies Gray that we can no longer buy. This is a Payne's Gray that's no longer available, and then this was I think that's a raw umber right there. So basically, you're trying to make yourself something that's not available to you anymore, or you've run out and gosh, it's a holiday weekend and your paint store, your local art store is closed. There's lots of good reasons to make your own. So, okay, I'm going to wing it here. I'm going to go ahead and make something with the lapis lazuli. I'm going to show that to you. And if Norm will open up the other little tub there.
That's really pretty. I know that's very expensive lapis.
It is, it is. And this one is the ultramarine ash. And the young man who was talking to me about it said it's one of his favorite colors. It helps unify a painting. It's got a beautiful undertone that you're not going to see in its form like this. When I was taking pictures of this out in the sun, I was looking at it going, why is it glittering? You can actually see the little bits of sparkles going on there. It's crazy, crazy good.
Yummy, yummy, yummy.
Yep. All right. Here we go. Going everywhere. So this is gemstone material. And the trick about lapis is that if you grind it too much, what happens, more and more of the gray particles that are naturally part of the lapis will start coming out. So if you over grind it, it's going to be less and less blue. So the higher grades of ultramarine lapis are actually grind to a specific density, and then they stop because they don't want to lose that beautiful color. And they can separate it out and try to keep more of the purple or the blue pigment, but that's a lot of work. It's a huge amount of work. Okay, so now I'm going to go into making egg tempura. I'm going to take a few drops of gum arabic, and then I'm going to take more drops of egg yolk. And I'm going to go slow this time so that I don't get too liquid. And I can feel already, and maybe you can hear it, this is a little bit more granular than the Cinnabreeze Rosa that I mixed up. But how is that for color?
Do you want to make sure you have a particular ratio of egg to gum arabic?
Yes, you prefer to have more egg than gum arabic. Yeah, that's just about perfect. And while it's still liquid on my palette, I'm going to go ahead . It's hilarious that I'm painting flowers for you because I'm not a flower painter. Here.
That's really a yummy color.
Isn't it?
Can you bring it up to the camera so we can see it?
Sure, just a sec. I'm going to paint upside down, even trickier.
Well, the thing about egg tempura is it's gonna maintain that luminosity for hundreds of years.
It will. It will. As long as some disaster doesn't befall, like the floods of Florence, that was catastrophic to their artwork. Drop a little bit more water in there. So you see it's drying very quickly for me. And if I had some green in here, so what I'm trying to do for you is a little bit of ocean scene here.
Why don't you hold it up to the camera so we can really see it? Yeah, okay, so you can see the intensity of that color.
Yeah. Now, if I'm wanting to turn this into a gouache, all I do is add some white.
Even leaving the egg into it?
Yeah, because it's liquid now, as soon as it starts drying, and I have to be very careful not to let my brush dry.
So the key to the gouache then is adding the white so it becomes opaque.
Yes.
But
yes.
Doesn't that impact the intensity of the color?
It does. It does. Since you've been painting in gouache for a bit now, haven't you?
Not a lot.
Okay. I'm putting just a couple drops of gum arabic in there to make sure I haven't. Come on, you. I'm short one dropper. Here we go.
While you're doing that, let me just make a couple of mentions of a couple of things. First off, the winner of the last prize is Meena Shah from India. So Meena, you're going to be getting a digital subscription to Plein Air magazine. So congratulations. You guys, today's prize is the easel brush clip. Easel brush clip is something that clips onto your easel, and you have the opportunity to win that today by your comments. So just make comments today and even in the replays, and we will then go to those comments and pick a winner for tomorrow. All right, Linda, I had to do that.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, so we're running thin on time. Is there anything else that you're going to want to show us in terms of paint making? How would I make, if I wanted to make oil paint out of pigment, how would I do that? That's lovely.
What you'd basically do is you take your dry pigment and you would take your oil of choice. Some people like linseed. I'm particularly fond of walnut oil. And you would just grind it and keep scraping the paint into the middle until you get the right consistency. So it's exactly like as we're doing now, except you're using oil. Now, there are a few dryers you could use out there, which are, resin-based or what have you, if you'd like a faster drying paint. But basically, it's the oil of choice, whatever you're going to go with.
So there are a lot of people who tuned in late who did not hear the beginning, but talk just briefly again why you think making your own paint has value.
It gives you unparalleled vibrancy. When you buy a tube, you don't really know what's in there. Yes, you may have the chemical formulation, what's in the tube, but there could be a lot of fillers, a lot of fillers. So that's why when you buy a color that's from a different brand, even sometimes if they change the formulation in your favorite brand, you will get a different paint than you expected. So that same paint name will give you radically different values and tint colors of paint. So if you want to have consistency in your paint, it's a great way to save your one, save yourself money, two, have a consistent product, and three, you're never stuck without, right? You can always make yourself another batch,
Yeah.
right?
Now there are paints out there that they put very little filler in, and it's pretty much very pure.
Mm-hmm.
So for those people who might want to make their own paint, um,
Mm-hmm.
and let's say they're making oil paint and they don't want to have to sit there and grind the paint and mix it up every time. What's the solution for them?
Um, hmm.
In other words, can I
You
put it
have,
in a tube or a jar?
yes, we have aluminum tubes now for people who want to make up big batches and then crimp it down tight to squeeze all the air out, and you've got a tube to go. So you can
That's what
see,
I've done.
yeah, yeah. It's a great way to preserve your colors. Now this is egg tempera and it will dry fast. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to save it so that it's actually now more of a gouache because I've got whiting in it. But what I will do is I will go ahead and put a little squeeze of water on top of it.
What's the difference between white and whiting?
Same thing. Same
It
thing.
is. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, it's the same thing.
So can
So
you reconstitute an egg tempura once it dries?
no,
No.
remember that it's permanent.
So
So
if you're painting with egg tempura, you mix it up while you're painting, then you paint, and then you mix more as you need it.
yes, I'm going to try to save that because it is the lapis and I don't want to lose it. So
That's
yeah,
very expensive.
yeah. So yeah, I was going to work on this piece, paint for you, but I think we're almost out of time. But this is the piece that I have turned into one of the stamps on my this is the Renaissance stamp. But I've always been unhappy with how the angel turned out and also a few details up there. So with the use of making my own paints, I can do egg tempera because this is an egg tempera painting. I can go ahead and go on top with opacity and change the color of the robe, change the face of the angel is green right now because I did the underpainting and I never completed the face. So see, you can repair old paintings. You can change them if you like.
So when you're painting with egg tempura, are you, when you're painting with oil paint, for instance, the theory is thick over thin or fat over lean. Is that
Mhm.
true also with egg tempura, or is it just you just go through a layer over layer?
You know, I you go layer by layer and you try to paint thinly if you can, because that's how they did it in the old days. That's how they built up color. Now take a look at this, the robe on Mary. The reason it has such depth is because they've done cross hatching with a fine brush to do the shadows. They do cross hatching in thin layers of a lighter blue to make that robe look like it has folds. So it's a fine detail painting technique, but I think people can experiment and figure out what makes them happy. So the gold, glittering gold on the angel's robe is also cross hatching. So basically, for that sort of technique, you're going to want a super fine brush,
When you say it's cross hatching of what? What material?
paint.
So it's gold. Is it actual gold, and do you sell that?
I hope to sell gold, but right now the price is extremely high.
And it's going higher.
I know, I know. I'm a jeweler also. I make jewelry. So, gold has been out of my reach for a long time. But
Yeah.
anyway, thank you. Thank you so much for having me on your program. I
Well,
had
Linda, let me just finish up. I just went over to my thing. I have these colors. This is how your things are packaged. They're nice little jars, beautiful colors. I have a whole set of them, and they're just wonderful. And it's been fun to experiment with them and make my own paints. And I tend to make my own oil paints. Not always. I use a lot of tube paints as well, but once in a while there's a color or a vibrancy that I want, and I mix in my oil and then I throw it in my tube, and it's a wonderful way. So tell people where they can find everything about what you have to offer.
please go to my website at www.Ancient Earth Pigments. And there's a few companies that have similar names, but this is our logo. That's our logo. So this is a cave art hand done by my daughter. It's not. Anyway, so yeah, Ancient Earth Pigments. And we hope to be putting on some of these new products, the brushes, the colors. We just got a shipment of these from Italy, so it's been quite the roller coaster.
I need one of those, by the way. So put me down and for an order, and I'll pay you.
Wonderful, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so Linda, thank you so much. It's been really great having you on today. It's ancientearthpigments.com. If you guys will hang with me for just a second. Linda, thank you for being on today. And I've just got a couple words of encouragement and to talk to you guys. And Linda, I want to thank you. You've been a proud supporter of our virtual live events, which, as you know, we've done in substitute for our in-person events like the plein air convention and the figurative art convention. You'll be happy about this, well over 1,400 people signed up for Watercolor Live. And the deadline is on the 10th, which is Sunday. So I would imagine we might see another 100, 200, 300 people come in before the price goes up. And then of course, it's in late January. So, and we've just added some new people. So thank you for your sponsorship of that. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. I'm having fun, and I'll encourage viewers when we get back to in-person events. I've been to 2 or 3 of Eric's events, plein air convention and realism, and they are fantastic because you get to meet some of your heroes in the painting world and talk to them, see them demo, and it's almost, the realism live and the watercolor live brings you the same high quality teaching. So, if you can possibly make it to a live event, please do, in-person event, please do.
Well, what we've realized is they're both a little bit different, right? We had probably, I want to say 60 or 70% of the people who attend the virtual conferences have told us, I've never been able to go to a live in-person event because of their personal circumstances, whatever that might be, taking care of family or jobs or income or whatever the situation is. So we're going to continue to do the virtual events, and we're going to do the live events. And the virtual, of course, you get the interaction online and you get to meet with a lot of international people, where there are fewer international people at the live events. There's some, but not, maybe 10 or 12, not hundreds. And so they're completely different.
They are. They're both wonderful. You'll have fun either type of
well,
event.
Linda, thank you so much. And we really appreciate you being on today. Everybody give Linda a thumbs up or applause, and make sure to leave something in the comments. And I hope everybody will go to ancientearthpigments.com and check it out. I have a bunch of Linda's stuff, and it's fabulous. And so thank you, Linda.
Thank you, Eric.
All right. Well, I've got a bunch of you here. I want you to hang on for just a second. I want to explain myself. We have been here for 288 days simultaneously because of coronavirus and the lockdowns, and wanting to be here to encourage you, to give you something else to think about, because we are all pretty paranoid about what's going on in the world, and certainly nothing has changed. 2020 was a horrific year for us in a lot of ways, and our minds were, going off into our worst possible scenarios. Now, with what happened yesterday, on top of everything else, it just makes everybody a little bit more uncomfortable. So I decided yesterday I wasn't going to go on. I didn't want to compete with the news cycle. I figured the best thing to do, I couldn't possibly pretend to be upbeat yesterday. And so I just decided to postpone that one, and we'll do it again later. So my apologies on that, but I do want to be there for you and want you to know that art changes your life. It changes your heart, and you need something. If you're in lockdown, even if you're not in lockdown, you need something more than just going to work every day or dealing with the things that you have in your life. And art is an option for you. And one of the points of this program, every day at 12 noon here on Facebook and YouTube, where you search it by finding it by going to Streamline Art Video. One of the reasons this has been helpful is because we do a little bit of everything here. Today we taught you how to make paints. We have had hundreds of artists on who have given demonstrations on different techniques, different styles, different approaches, different subject matters. And we've had people from all over the world tuning in. I'm seeing new people today. And I want you to know that you are welcome into the family. There's a group called the Dreamliners. The Dreamliners are, they're not my group. They've set up on their own, but they have started because they're friends of this program. And it's a way that you can communicate with and get to know the family. And I'm sure if you just go to Dreamliners on Facebook and apply, they'll let you in. Again, I have nothing to do with it other than the fact that they're friends of the show. But we love the fact that you're here with us. Tune in every day. We also have at 3 p.m. every day a gift to you. We're offering you our art instruction videos. And the art instruction videos today will be Mario Robinson, and he's going to talk about watercolor portraits. And he's done a couple of videos with us, beginner watercolor portraits, and this one, watercolor portraits. And Mario is a fabulous friend and a fabulous artist. And he's on today at 3 p.m. And you find it on YouTube or Facebook by searching out Streamline Art Video. You should also know, if you go to YouTube, you'll find all 288 days times 2, right? You'll have the 12 noons and the 3 p.m.s. And we're basing that on Eastern time, New York time, just because it's an easy time for everybody to remember around the world. And so you can tune in anytime. Of course, you can watch the replays. We are giving gifts away, prizes away for watching and putting your name in the comments and telling us where you're from. So we will randomly choose some people in the comments. Tonight, I'm doing a free New Year's party paint along. I decided I wanted to do something, but I didn't want to do it right at the beginning of the year when everybody was still home dealing with family and everything else. That's tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern or 6 p.m. Pacific. I'm not going to put my tuxedo on, but we're just going to sit around and have cocktails, and we're going to paint a picture together, and that will be a lot of fun. So join us. The way to find it, that's a really great question. We sent out an email yesterday. If you're on our email list, we will post it in the comments. I'll have somebody post it in the comments today. So go back to the comments. Tomorrow, Mary Pettitz is going to be on, and this is one of her paintings. And so that'll be our guest tomorrow. Also, want you to know about Watercolor Live. I want to thank the sponsors of Watercolor Live. Ancient Earth Pigments is one of the sponsors who was on today. They don't pay for this. We're to be on the show here on my show today. They do pay to be sponsors, and we want to thank our sponsors for supporting this. We've added some new artists to Watercolor Live. I'm not going to go through the whole list, but we've added Larry Moore, who's going to do some gouache painting, Glenn Knowles, Antonio Massi, Cheryl Fletcher-Kuhn, Terry Denson, and Denise Willing-Bower. And so they've added to Watercolor Live. Just briefly, if you would, just watch this.
Have you ever wanted to learn to paint in watercolor but don't think you have the talent? Most master artists will tell you that painting is a skill anyone can learn. If you follow a process, you too can paint beautiful artwork. You could spend $3,000 or more to attend a live workshop or convention. Or you could learn from the world's finest for a fraction of the cost at Watercolor Live, the world's first virtual online art conference devoted to water media. 3 days of world-class artists demonstrating in portraiture, landscapes, still life, the human figure, cityscapes, color mixing, and more. Get to know other artists and instructors personally through our breakout sessions, and we'll even paint and draw together at the end of each day in the safety of your own home. Make new friends in our breakout sessions. Paint with hundreds of others. Get private access to our exclusive members group to become part of our community, and learn to take your artwork to a higher level. Watercolor Live, 3 full days of watercolor instruction from the world's best. January 28th to 30th. And for people who want to learn painting from scratch, start with our Beginner's Day on January 27th. Soon you'll be painting faces, people, flowers, scenery, objects, and other subjects. You'll see your artwork improve faster as you learn from top artists and instructors from all over the world. Make history as part of the world's first watercolor art conference. Sign up today and join the world as we learn art together from these amazing artists. Joseph Zbukvich, Linda Daly Baker, Jean Peterson, Mario A. Robinson, John Salmonen, Thomas W. Schaller, Suni Warren, Matthew Bird, Andy Evenson, Michael Holter, Pablo Rubin, Daniel Marshall, Lauren McCracken, Angus McEwen, Kim Minikello, Ian Stewart, Brenda Swenson, Keiko Tonabe, Stephen Zhang, Birgit O'Connor, Shuang Li, Antonio Masi, Larry Moore, Glenn Knowles, and many more to come. Why not use this time to learn a new skill so you can amaze your friends and family with your paintings? Watercolor Live, from the publishers of Plein Air Magazine and American Watercolor. Sign up by January 10th and save up to $500 off the retail price.
I just posted in the comments section, I just posted the link to the party tonight, the New Year's party. We'll also do it on Facebook, but you'll be able to watch it there, but you won't be able to participate. If you want to participate, there's a Zoom link, and make sure that you go in there and participate. So thank you for being here today. I'm sorry about yesterday, but I just felt like, as Dan Kennedy says, you cannot compete with Santa Claus. So I didn't want to be competing with the news cycle yesterday. Stay positive, stay upbeat, keep your head in the game. Remember, we will get through all of this together. And if we keep our mindset pure and we stay focused on the big picture, we're going to be just fine. So we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you for being here. Bye-bye.